everyone, to the next episode of the Foally of Man. I'm Chris, with me here today,
Robert, and it is a pleasure being here with you again after the long break and the holidays.
Yes, so
Many myriad of holidays that have been celebrated, much drinks have been had, good food, hopefully not a lot of chronic depression and fights and people being removed from the will.
You're going to have to be honest with ourselves here, that happened a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable, particularly with our families. But we're glad to be back.
Yes.
It's good to be back. So this is episode 30-something?
32?
32. And we are covering chapter 35.
35.
Excellent.
And today's chapter is Cold Dawn Light.
Hit us with that quote.
The quote is very tiny on the screen down there. I need new glasses. I heard something about a town south of here being attacked, but details are sketchy. All I know is that there haven't been any refugees showing up here, which means that either the attack wasn't too bad, or it was very, very bad.
Yeah.
So what's the town?
Now, do you remember where that quote is specifically from?
No.
Don't. Okay. I was just going to ask you. I didn't know if it popped to mind.
I don't know. It might be related to the town from Fallout 3 that gets attacked by the fire ants.
Oh. With the antagonizer?
No, that was a different town.
A different one. I see.
The Fire Ants was a different town in which you met the, I can't remember the name of it was. I can't remember the name of either one of them. But there was the little boy who was trying to ask you for help.
Yes.
Yeah. He usually meets you at the Super Duper Mart.
Obviously, because there were ants involved, I
assumed.
Yeah, put them together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still a guy behind it, if you can believe it. A scientist who infused the fire thing into the ants because he just wanted to see what would happen. Ended up destroying the town. Good job.
Why did we play God?
We didn't. He did.
I guess I mean the plural we as in humanity, the greater, efforts of humanity to pretend to be God.
You're putting his actions on all of us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, so
that's what
we're going to be a little different this time around. Due to some feedback we've gotten from you guys, we're going to try to see if we can break this down into a bulletized thing. Rather than going over a summary of kind of just like what we remember from the chapters, we're going to actually give bullet points as they happen in the chapter, kind of key story elements, and then we're going to give our thoughts on those.
I thought we were going to do an interpretive dance.
That can come later. We can do interpretive dance. However, I am not in a solid black leotard, and you are in a cat costume, so you might have to come back for that.
Don't give away all my secrets.
Well, we aren't. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I won't tell them about the placenta.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's really more of a metaphor. It's not actually placenta. It's anyways. So, shall we start?
Shall we start? Okay, so we start off continuing the radio broadcast from last chapter.
From DJ Pawn 3.
DJ Pawn 3, in which she talks about pretty much her applying what Little Pip has done to the world space, right?
Right.
And it essentially comes down to
trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah, and
it's like I cannot imagine that this whole town would have been
completely obliterated by Little Pip. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't do it. And then she
saved a lot of ponies.
And then she goes into what is effectively the line from The Dark Knight: "You either die a hero or live long enough to be a villain." Which is, I'm going to break away from the story a little bit and say, first off, that movie's 10 years old.
Yep.
Wow.
Time flies when you're a piece of shit.
Hey, it shows how well the movie's held up. I mean, you don't go, that was forever on ago. It's like, that actually happened 10 years ago.
Christopher Nolan has made several movies since then.
Mm-hmm. And the important thing is, even at the time, even we were like, okay, that's too on the nose, that's too cheesy of a line. Movie, you can't spell it out like this very obviously, but that ended up being one of the more iconic quotes from the entire series.
And one of the few superhero movies that actually won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Not for Best Film, they'd never do that. But definitely for Heath Ledger's performance.
Yes, but you also remember there's another movie, a superhero movie that won an Oscar, and we don't want to talk about it.
Oh, do we now?
The Oscar-winning Suicide Squad.
Oh, God, it just makes you feel dirty saying it.
It means that the Oscars died a long time ago, kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway,
we're not talking about Oscars. We're not even talking about movies. We're talking about Fallout 3 and My Little Pony.
So what was your takeaway? I mean, did you have any thoughts during the radio broadcast
Just trying to rationalize the fuck buddy and saying, God, I hope you're not a monster, even though I have, suspicions that you're a monster.
I slept with you. How could you do this to me?
I gave you orgasms. I gave you the best trots of my life. Yeah, so there's a lot of trying to. I mean, realistically, it's trying to rationalize. Like, cannot imagine a scenario where Little Pip would have just eviscerated an entire town, and if such is the case, had to be a damn good reason. But also, Homage doesn't really completely trust Little Pip because Homage knows that Little Pip is a drug addict and can be fueled by other means.
Very emotional, very quick,
impulsive,
very quick to act, and there's also a certain amount of power that Little Pip has. Little Pip has a great amount of power in the story, and other people know this. They know that she has. There's something about her where when she sets her mind to something, she will get it done, and that's the reason that Velvet drugged her, is because she's like, look, we have to stop you. You're not going to be stopped by any other means unless I do this now. And so it's like going hilariously back to superheroes.
Yeah.
Like you talking about Superman. Whenever we get into a conversation about Superman, Robert describes Superman as a fantastic villain.
I could get into that.
I mean, because
hell, it's my podcast. I can do whatever the hell I want. But yeah, you think about the origin story of Superman. He is this alien on an alien planet, raised as a human, and everybody who's watched Kill Bill knows the critique of Superman that Clark Kent is his perception of what a human is.
Yeah.
Weak, pathetic, uninitiated, always second fiddle. And yet Superman, think about what Superman is. Again, alien on an alien planet. Mm-hmm. Everyone is crying and depending on you. You hear the cries of 1 billion people all the time. You have immense power, and yet people still fear and hate and wish to control you.
Yeah, and we should control each other. Wouldn't it be perfect in Superman's
mind? The last thing we should note is that everyone you love, you lose.
Yeah.
Everyone he's attached himself to, he loses. He can't. That's the one thing he can't do is he can't save them. Except when they jump the fucking shark, the one thing Superman can't do is turn back time, and then they say, well, guess what? You can just keep the planet. I know. Then he just turns the fucking planet back, and that supposedly turns back time. Well, why don't you turn back time to when your dad's not dead? Or, I don't know, when Krypton wasn't blown up.
Because you can only turn back time on the Earth.
Because that's how it works.
The whole point is that the Superman movie should have been the last Superman thing to ever exist because he surpassed the final boundary. Therefore, he is God. Because he moved beyond. He now moved to a different plane of existence. He works in another dimension now.
Well,
but regardless, moving this back into how it works with Equestria. Now, the idea in the mind of Superman, the entire time, he's going to ask himself, wouldn't it just make more sense, instead of them leading themselves to destruction time and time again, what if I told them what they should do? Because I know what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. I have it figured out. I realize the consequences to all these actions because I have a certain amount of understanding.
Sound a little familiar?
But the point is, he would become a terrible dictator who would literally be into thought crimes and everything else. He would completely restrict any amount of liberty to any individual in the entire planet. And so when you look at Little Pip, and when these characters look at her, they see this possibility of absolute power that she holds. And that's, just bringing it back, that's kind of a fear that the people around her, Homage has, a lot of people, and it makes complete sense. And coming from the gamification of a story, which is what this is, in a game, you are godlike.
Think about it. Everyone, even Little Pip. So Little Pip controls her immediate environment. Mm-hmm. But everyone in the story has someone above them that manipulates their actions behind them, including Homage. Mm-hmm. Homage's actions are heavily dictated by the group that runs Tin Pony Tower.
Yep.
Little Pip, whether she likes it or not, though she may be in charge of her group and technically has sway over an elder of the Brotherhood of Steel, he answers to her. He's a 200-year-old elder in his order, but he answers to her. But even she is held to the whims of Red Eye and to Trixie.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. The goddess.
Yeah. But I mean, saying about the gamification, think about it as any player. If you were to exist within the game space, okay, let's not talk about Reboot for half a second for all the people out there who remember that. But if you were a AI, somehow an omniscient AI in world space, any player would seem like a god. And the reason I say this is because characters will never, if you actually take away the failed experience and just go back in time and only live the experience that they play through, they will always make the correct decisions to get to the end. Whatever end they want, but they will always make the correct decisions to get there. Because if they fail, if they die, they revert time and go down a different path to continue. So, yes, this Little Pip is the kind of gamer. She is the PC in this gamed world space.
What do you know? Leader of the Minuteman and the Railroad and the Brotherhood of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. It is interesting. Play with me here for a moment on Fallout 4.
Okay.
You can literally become the leader of almost all the factions with two exceptions. The Railroad and the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
You can become a paladin. Is that the last step before elder?
It doesn't really. I think they keep changing that.
Well, it
every
also
single
depends
cycle.
east versus west, but. Anyways.
I mean, I know. I played Skyrim too. Getting on with the story.
Skyrim
here.
is a perfect example of wow. You literally run everything. The only thing you cannot assume is become the emperor himself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing you can't do.
Just wait.
It would be interesting, but you also don't become a jarl.
You can, with a mod create, be the king of Skyrim.
Would your throne be in Winterhold or in
I don't know. I've never played it. Anyway, so let's move on to the next bullet point because otherwise this is going to.
I
take
know
forever.
we're going to devolve quickly.
Let's see. Calamity is very confused, very distressed, and is like, "What the fuck is going on?
He
really, cannot have done this.
He's really
she
loyal.
Could not have destroyed all of these ponies."
The thing is, he's really, really loyal, and he's very, Pip is his best friend. But the problem is, his morality is a little, I hate to say less pure, but he's more...
I actually have that in the bullet points because I wanted to remember it very well.
He's got Wasteland morality.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, they ate people, and I'm not happy about that, but, he put them on the same level as slavers. Like,
yes.
Trading with cannibals, he put at the same level as slavers. And Little Pip is like, well, obviously we know how Little Pip feels. She slaughtered them. But Velvet Remedy comes to Little Pip's defense.
Yeah.
And in a scary way, she really comes swinging. Like,
yeah.
They were eating people. They fed Pony to you.
29% of the ponies are cannibals.
I know. They fed the father, the dead father, to his cult.
Awful. I mean, we were actually there have been discussions on this on the subreddit before, of people talking about the fact that there is no universal sense of morality. There is no universal morality. So
right.
how evil? Where does cannibalism lie on the line?
It's
and I think I will say hereditary cannibalism is objectively evil from a sense of an evolutionary standpoint.
Right.
I do think I can go with that.
It's interesting you should say that. I was actually listening to a lecture last week on how morality is dictated by society. I'll give you an example. In the United States, we believe it to be immoral to consume canines or felines because we have determined that these things are not tasty and that they are not food.
Yeah.
But there are cultures that will look at a dog the same way we look at a pig.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in all honesty, pigs are very useful animals too, but we perceive them because of our moral code that they are food and not pets.
Yep.
But
even though they can be just as useful,
absolutely,
they can be trained the same way. They're actually.
I'll give you a second example. In this country, we don't eat horse. As far as I'm concerned, there is zero difference between a horse and a cow in regards to what they are. They're big, dumb herbivores that eat grass all day.
I think the cows have more meat.
Not we don't breed horses for meat in the United States, but you can fatten a horse just like you do a cow. I mean, I used to work with horses. horses will get fat if you let them get in the sweet grass, the sweet summer grass. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it really comes down to there is no such thing as an objective morality. There are certain guidelines, limitations when it comes to the rules of the universe. Like we were talking evolutionarily. I mean, if you want to break against evolution, that's a pretty hard line that you really can't cross.
Well, in Calamity's really trying to at first he thinks he has the moral high ground, and then he finds out no, even Steelhooves sides with Pip.
I pointed this out in the notes. I said, Calamity seeks to save the cannibals as they are an extension of the wasteland he wishes to save.
Right.
But due to feeling separated from it because he is not of the wasteland, he lumps it together as all of the bad side. And one of the reasons is because he wants to save the wasteland. And the thing is, if he wants to save it, he can't look at it. Yeah. He can't look at it as if any part of it is so evil that it's beyond saving. Because then, in his mind, that is going to ebb, and it's going to take more and more and more, and then he's going to think to himself, maybe it's not. And
it's really funny.
He himself cannot feel that way, so he walls this hard line and says, it doesn't matter, they're just doing what they can to survive, we need to save it all.
It's really, really funny, because he's historically been very hard on the stable dwellers for being naive.
Yeah.
And in a way, this is very naive on his part.
Yeah.
Because you cannot have a society that functions with cannibals.
Not really, no. There is one tribe, it was in Guinea or something? There was a tribe that was notable that used cannibalism, but to be fair, they haven't invented anything of any worth to society. Therefore, I don't consider their society that impactful.
Technically, we've all participated in auto cannibalism. Ever picked a booger?
That's grooming, but okay.
It's a part of you.
It's grooming.
Yeah.
I think Donner Party's a little different from picking your nose.
Anyways, I'm just saying on my scale, they're exactly the same.
They're both gross. They're both very gross.
Yeah, they are. But anyways, and then Calamity eventually cangives Pip a big hug, and it's like,
well, because at some point he has to realize, because what he's still breaking into this thing where he can't say something is beyond salvation, and he's given so much to Pip when it comes to believing her, and the fact that she usually most of the time came up right, that turning around and saying, I can no longer be with you is unacceptable. He can't do that now. Too much of his life is invested in this, so he has to say, look, I know what you've done, I know who you are, and I know what you do.
I know your heart. Pip, I know your heart. I've seen your heart, is what he says.
Yeah, he actually probably has from the amount of time that she's probably been on the operating table. So, he says, look, I don't agree with what you've done, but I believe you. I believe that you did it for the right reason to you. And that's all I need to keep going.
Yeah, because he's loyal.
Yeah, which is great.
And of course, Pip's virtue is corrupted kindness.
Yeah, apparently. She keeps toying with the idea, am I corrupted kindness?
She keeps referring to the little voice in her head as My Little Pony.
Yes.
And it's like that moment in a movie where it's like, oh, they said the title!
It's adorable.
A bit on the muzzle, as it were.
On the snoot.
On the snoot. All right. Next
is Velvet and the children.
Somebody please think of the children. Actually, she winds up scaring the children.
Yes, in her tirade because she was protecting them from Little Pip's wrath.
And they literally just watched their parents get murdered by Little Pip, and it's like, oh, hopefully I'm not next. And pretty much everyone that had not participated in the ritual yet was spared, with the exception of one. Because they were a security guard.
Yeah.
And guarding the basement area.
Yeah, and
and Pip's like, but you knew what you were guarding, and
yeah, he still did nothing.
Yeah.
And
you knew it was wrong because you were guarding it. You were trying to keep me out.
And the visualization of Pip ripping the clothes off of mares and them screaming,
I'm being raped!
Rape.
Yeah. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
But you'd be pretty desperate too. if somebody was eviscerating you.
Yeah,
The funny thing is
killing everyone around you and then ripping your clothes off. Yeah, I'm pretty certain
when everything
know
breaks
what's going
out,
on.
obviously, when combat was triggered, her party runs to, combat's triggered for them as well. Pop them out of stealth mode. But anyways, so they aggroed. They all take shots, but they're trying to disarm the targets. So like Calamity shoots one in the leg and it goes down. Well, Pip runs up and shoots it in the head, and he's like, "Ah, "What are you doing?"
Finishing the job. Okay. So yeah, this is still going on about Velvet and Calamity, arguing the morals, right versus wrong, and realizing that there's not really, I mean, there's a stance you can take, but there's a stance you should take. And the reason I say the stance you should take is because there's got to be a line in the sand you draw that says, this is where we are, this is where we're not going. And you have to figure that out now. Yeah. Because you're already past the point where you can have a dialogue on it, because you've already acted on that line in the sand. Right. So now you have to agree. That's it.
Well, as I mentioned before, Calamity, really kind of gives it to Steelhooves. He's like, listen, you're the elder of your group. What would Applejack think of this? He throws Applejack in his face.
That is the wrong thing to do.
And he's like, oh, you mean this person that I knew, that I loved, that I was intimate with? That he doesn't say these things because he never opens up like that to them. But it's the person that he knew best.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, so you mean the mayor that would throw out the bad apples? You mean her?
Right. Yeah. What he boils down to, he says, in her time, cannibals would have been imprisoned, sent to the Ministry of Peace, and corrected. And he uses the term corrected.
Yeah, and the thing is, they don't have that option. There's no option for imprisonment in this world. Because there is no authority, there is no prison, there's no active governmental system. So, look, it's the law of the Wasteland. You fuck up, that's it. That's all you can do. If you've shown that there is an individual who cannot be saved by any other means, that is a threat to what you could deem civilized society, you put them down, and that's not nice, but you don't have an option.
I love the way that he describes Applejack. He says Applejack was two things. She was a friend and she was a farmer. And when she tended her apples, even she had to remove bad apples.
You have to remove bad apples. So that's what they were doing. And Velvet describes it as cutting out the infection, cutting out the cancer, which terrifies the shit out of the children. You have to cut out the rotted flesh.
Yeah.
They're just fucking losing it.
Stick the pig, make him bleed.
Yes.
We have to remember this whole time too, we're all leading up to going to Canterlot.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed. So we are on.
Now it didn't actually give any perks in this chapter, but I think that posthumously we should give Little Pip the post-term abortionist perk. There you go.
I want to say something too. There was a perk, but it was just another one of those max levels.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be, no, that's not actually like... So, she talks to... They talk a little bit more to Grandpa Rattle, because it's still at night, and he's still very lucid.
Well, and he talks about he was kissed by Luna, or touched by Luna.
Kissed by Luna.
Blessed by Luna, yeah. And they're like, well, what's that? And he's like, I have... extreme perception and thought.
Yeah, which is as we were describing before, the Sundowners meets the Night Stalker perk, or Night Person perk. Yeah. And so that's just those two working together just creates that effect.
Well, and he's very aware, and even he says, I won't be coherent for very long.
Yeah, he knows what's going to happen. But here's an interesting point. He says, go up to my room. Inside is a book, a ledger that I have of all of the things
victims.
This is reminiscent of the Novak murdering of Boone's wife, where you have to find out who sold out Boone's wife to Caesar's Legion, and you have to pick the safe in the front office to find out that it was the lady that runs the front office, and find a ledger inside that sells them.
And that's a good point, because there's a ton of references for the DC Wasteland in this book, but they're right. That's very specifically a New Vegas reference.
Yeah, the Novak, Arbu, very same, and we've already touched on that in a previous episode. But she has this chapter's filled with introspection, Pip thinking about what she's done, arguing with herself about what she did. Was it right? Was it wrong? Is there something she could have done better? But
we have a great moment between Pip and Steelhooves. And essentially what he says is, I want to thank you which seems like a weird thing to say, but wants to thank Pip because it shows that she can make mistakes.
I actually wrote it down.
Yeah.
Steelhooves stared out over the harbor. I need to thank you, Little Pip. For what? For failing.
I want to thank you.
Which is actually one of my favorite lines from this story. It's one I usually reference. It's one of the few times that Steelhooves comes out of his shell. But he breaks out emotionally and says, look, you put yourself at this level that nobody could possibly get past. Yeah. And it's impossible for me to even understand who or what you are.
Right.
To even connect with you on any level, because you're so virtuous in all of your actions that I could never even possibly understand. And by failing, you've opened up and you've allowed yourself to be more mortal, to be more
human. Well, and you make me
echoing.
feel better about myself and the mistakes I've made. Mm-hmm. Because he very much wants to walk that path. Anyways.
Trot the path.
Trot the path.
Okay, but we are skipping forward a little bit. So she does get this. She gets the ledger, brings it down, and Calamity says, "I don't need to see the ledger. I believe you. I don't need to see it. I don't care to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything more of this place. I believe you. Let's move on. I just have to get out."
So they have to take the kids and the old stallion. What was his name again?
Grandpa Rattle, which they find out was actually a former member of the Brotherhood of Steel.
That's correct.
The Steel Rangers, known as Scribe Rattles, which must have been very interesting in his younger days, why he was called Rattles.
It's definitely a story behind that.
I can only assume he had arthritis from a young age, or maybe rickets.
Or maybe a snake was involved.
Ooh. I mean, what would rickets look like on a horse?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Look up rickets.
I was going to say, if you know and you'd like to share in the comments, please let us know.
That might be a little bit graphic.
So
they go towards Friendship City. They head towards Friendship City. And on the way to Friendship City, they're getting shot at by Friendship City. And they're like...
Well, because of the radio broadcast saying, don't trust these people if you see them, because they may be very dangerous.
Because two of the scribes from the Buckland Cross went out and started blabbing about, she's awful, she killed a whole bunch of innocents, and they did nothing wrong. They were a good little boy.
Yes, of course.
But the problem is that, of course, they were lying.
Again, the Steel Rangers in this are just dicks.
Yeah.
They're more the Western branch of the Brotherhood.
Yeah, they're just assholes.
I've told you how I feel. Like, I fell in love with the Brotherhood in Fallout 3. Mm-hmm. And so to see the other iterations...
Well, I think that's what makes them so good in Fallout 3 is the fact that it's such a breakaway from the... It's like saying, okay, we're finally going to step in and fucking do something because I'm tired of seeing...
We have all this power. It's like, what differentiates them from the Enclave?
Yeah.
Like, up until that point, nothing differentiates them from the Enclave. Other than they're the descendants of mutated people. Yeah. Rather, the Enclave are pure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like... Anyways. Yeah, I was going to say, the Enclave are Nazis and the Brotherhood are tech Nazis. And so it's like, to have them be more virtuous made them a better foil to the Enclave. Rather than just being... it's just another kind of Enclave.
And compare their armor, aluminum foil.
That's right.
Only stats-wise. Okay, so they actually land outside and they try to figure out what's going on. And in the meantime, another radio broadcast comes through where the caravan, the merchant from Arbu, swings on through and tells DJ Pony, and I don't know what happened during it, but beforehand, certainly sounds like there was a whole bunch of fake news.
Yeah. Well, he says, essentially corrects the record. Little Pip was trying to trade for water talismans with the Brotherhood, and that's when it went south.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who reveals about the cannibalism, right?
Yes. Well, he said it was a he said she said scenario. So he said like it was unconfirmed, but it was kind of one of those things of they could have been cannibals. If that's the case, no wonder she did that. I mean, still don't know if that's what happened, but still.
I remember it's really fresh. I remember the broadcast heavily implicating that. Yeah. I mean, DJ Pony basically says, and they were selling this to the rest of the
people. Yeah, so be careful when you're eating Radigator kebabs. If you do,
you may be eating Pony.
You may not be Radigator.
Yeah. Darn good eating that radigator.
Yeah. It tastes like chicken. That's because they're both very, very low.
Oh, another thing we find out is that Little Pip will be a vegetarian for the rest of her life.
Yes.
So, but I mean, once you've had Pony,
There's no going...
Brony? I don't know.
Once you go Brony, you can never go Pony.
Ladies.
Okay, moving on. So they more introspection. Pip talking. This is when Pip actually talks to Steelhooves, and that line is delivered about "Thank you for failing." But because of that, they were able to actually do negotiation with Friendship City.
Yep.
And give the survivors from Arbu as well as the other locations that are around there, and give them water talisman as a kind of gift, as a goodwill
sign
gesture.
of good faith.
Sign of good faith. She also installed the water talisman into Stable 29.
Yep.
And they were talking about rebooting the...
Yeah, it skips around a lot right there at the end, because then they're basically they're heading into Canterlot.
Yeah, so they're kind of wrapping everything up.
Yeah. Before the shit show begins.
Ah, yes.
And Little Pip is even questioning, like, should I take my
Pip buck off?
My Pip buck off in case it fuses to my leg?
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
And it's
I like it, but I don't know if I like it that much.
She's like, I have the tools to take it off, but
it becomes useless. I mean, all it is a radio.
Right.
So it's interesting them preparing for Canterlot because they don't know what they're going to get into. Because anyone who went in, they got a lot. No, they're gone.
I was going to say Steelhooves has some idea,
but I mean he hasn't gone in.
Yeah.
Because even then, just because he is already a ghoul doesn't mean he's immune to the.
It's the petrified corpses of our goddesses.
Well,
that's where they die, right? In Canterlot.
So anyway, on the way. They're flying over on the way to Canterlot. They see some friendly and enemy targets, the hostile targets in the air. This is very dark at night, very hard to figure out. Get close enough for Pip to recognize the dark targets as bloodwings.
Hundreds of bloodwings.
And so they say, "Okay, bring us in. We're going to save it. We're going to save them." And so that's where the chapter kind of cuts off, because then we go to the last broadcast, which is Grandpa Rattles phoning in to DJ Pony. Because DJ Pony, I guess, was doing, call-in
That's right.
awards.
Yeah.
Hello, dialer, you're on the air.
Yeah.
And so...
I would like to place an order for a Radigator pizza.
Go home, Grandpa. So,
Grandpa
and
Rattles.
he's gonna set the record straight for you young'uns at home. But, yeah, no, it's a great chapter. Going back, I do also want to touch on one thing. Is Little Pip wonders if she can be saved. She says, "I've done this. Is there any way I can break free from this?"
The answer is no.
Well, she says yes.
No, I'm just saying the answer is no.
The answer is no.
It's Hitchcock's rules of film. You have to kill him. Eventually. I mean, you become the monster you hate.
Yeah.
And it's what you do to be a hero, but then you no longer belong in society.
Yeah. So you have to remove yourself.
Yeah. I mean, like that's inevitably where we're heading. I mean, what's Pip's choice? Oh, I'll just go live with Homage and be happy for the rest of my life.
The story itself, we know how it works.
So, and on that bombshell,
you're still in for a great story.
No. It is. It's.
If you think you have it figured out, you don't.
Well, we'll just see.
Everything ends in sunshine and rainbows. But first, you must walk through fire.
Yeah, through the fire and the flame. And on that note, guess what?
What?
The Pony Pun of the Week is back!
We had to change in the basement.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, the Pony Pun of the Week is quite poignant, considering what time it is. And it is Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Happy
everyone.
New Year to you! And you, and you, but not you.
You know what you did, Steve.
Yeah, it's always Steve. Fuck Steve.
And Jared.
Yeah, Jared too. What a real bastard.
God.
So, if you want to follow us other places, you can find us at ChriscoCast on Twitter. You can email us at cbpbch@gmail.com. Let me do that one more time extra slow for you. cbpbch@gmail.com. And you can also find our podcast, if you're not listening to it, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can find us at thefollyofman.libsyn.com. If you're listening to us from the podcast app, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Chrisco brand biscuits. Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah,
Of all the places that you can find us. So, of course, we're going to be back on our regular schedule. You know, we've taken a lot of fiber, so we should be good and regular now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
nothing but brand cereal every day, all 3 meals.
Of course, you can always, I don't know why I would be advertising for our streams, but because we're about to record the stream, that's why I was thinking of it, but they won't know that because this isn't live. You'll see this on Wednesday. But tune in anytime with the streams. We're doing a Fallout 3 stream, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a little bit of Minecraft. I think, or I know, we're going to be doing some Prey sometime soon. Sometime soon.
That was actually a special request. We do Prey. The new Prey, not the old Prey, even though I keep wanting to make jokes about how it's interesting. I'm going to keep playing through and saying, okay, when do we actually play the Native American guy getting abducted by aliens?
And as always, we don't do this for any personal gain. We do it because we enjoy it, and we do it because y'all watch and participate and follow and comment. Yes, and comments. So I was going to say, if there's anything that y'all would like our perspective on, or just to see us suffer doing, let us know.
If you want to see a little bit of a different format, you don't like what we're doing, you want to see something different, if you want to see us hanging from the ceiling.
Other than a saucy puppet show, I'm down.
I don't know. We might be able to swing it.
Why are there so many songs
about butt sex?
You said butt sex, I said fisting. Our minds are in the gutter. And on that bombshell, you have suffered through another episode of The Folly of Man.
Yeah.
For Chris, I'm Robert.
You have no one to blame yourself?
We'll see you next time. That's it. We're done. All right.
It's all over, but the cry